I want to tell a story about something that happened the other day that was pretty amazing. I got a call from, well, first on Facebook, I had seen this woman had been posting about her dog who has lymphoma. And I've dealt with the woman, I know her through a bunch of a therapeutic riding center. And so I had, been watching to see, what was going on with the dog because it's just a very tragic situation. And then at some point, I had noticed that she had said, please say prayers for the dog. It wasn't doing well. And again, it's very sad. And so the next day, I got an email from her saying, could you go meet my dog at the hospital? The woman had said that the dog had just been diagnosed with lymphoma, which I had known, and that it was actually one of the better types of lymphoma, something that was treatable, and there was a potential for the dog to live many more years. So that was the good news. The bad news was the dog wasn't even standing, didn't have the strength to stand, was really weak, certainly wasn't walking, and was now at the hospital that, couldn't go to the bathroom on its own, all of that sort of stuff. And there was no reason for it. It had nothing, the oncologist was apparently sure that it had nothing to do with the medication, nothing to do with the chemo, nothing to do with the lymphoma. And so everybody was baffled. And apparently what made the woman think of me was the oncologist had said, if only the dog could tell us what's going on, because it was this giant mystery. Now they were continuing to do tests. They did an MRI. Nothing was showing up. So I went to the hospital. The woman who the owner, was working that evening. So her husband met me there at the hospital. And when I got there, there was a dog that was splayed out on the ground. The hospital is kind of, it was lined with hospital beds. This was obviously like an ICU sort of unit where dogs coming out of surgery or having things done, procedures, were all had their dog beds that you could see. You could see into, what was going on for them. So this dog Drifter was out of his cage and with the husband, the owner's, the husband half, on the ground, and he was petting the dog and very attentive to the dog. And so when I got there, I started the communication session. But the moment I got there, I felt this little pressure on the back of my head and a couple of other things in my body. And I thought, this is like a pinched nerve. And so as I felt into, in animal communication, there's animal communication, telepathy, getting to know the pictures, getting to feel or sense the pictures, words, and feelings of an animal. And then I do a scan. And in the scan, as I said, I felt the pressure. I felt a real big cutoff point mid-back, right behind the ribs, a little bit further back than mid-back. And then I felt like no energy, like that sort of feeling when it's not quite pins and needles, but when you get up off the couch and maybe your foot is asleep, like you give. That's what I felt in the hind end. So I immediately thought acupressure and cranial sacral. Those are my two go-to things. In the meantime, though, I was chatting with the husband and was telling him the things that I was feeling, and I got him to start doing the circulation on the front end because I wanted the front end of the dog and the back end to come together. And I sat on the back end. I'd done a little bit of massaging up in here, but also started working on the back end of the dog. And as I was communicating with the dog, I got a sense of how hard this was for him to be in this environment. I could look at this environment and go, wow, this is state of the art, such a cool hospital. But he was overwhelmed because he was a real caretaker. He was somebody that absolutely loved to take care of everybody, and especially this couple. When I told the husband this, he said, oh yeah, he does ministry in Snohomish. He says, I can walk this dog out and he can pick out somebody that he just loves and takes care of, and really, like, he just gives love. this dog just loves, and that's his purpose. And here he was in the hospital, no one even seeing who he is as that sort of a character. So at some point, a vet tech came over and said, you know, do we want a private room? And I said yes. As we started wheeling the dog down to the private room, the dog went into tremors, you know, was fearful of where he was going and what we were doing. And then I started to second guess what was going to happen. But I still thought, this is still better than him splayed out on the ground in the other room. So when we got to the private room, he was a little more animated. And I continued to work on him with the husband. And at some point I just said, you know what, let's try it. Let's stand him up. Well, not only did we stand him up, he proceeded to take a bunch of steps around the room, and then he kind of exhausted himself, so we let him lay back down. And he was so proud of himself, and it was like he was back in his body. So the next thing you know, a vet tech comes to the door and says, how's it going in here? And both the husband and I replied, we got him walking. And at that point I could just feel that Drifter wanted to show off again. And so we stood him up. I grabbed his little bladder bag because he's all hooked up still. And the next thing you know, he wanted out the door. He walked himself all the way down the hall, I guess about 80 feet, and then into that room where his bed was for the night. And anyway, the husband had taken a video to show the wife, but I want to go ahead and show you that video now.
Okay, now ready.
Yeah.
You hit that floor.
Oh my gosh, he is doing great. We could try it if he wants to go all the way back, and just once he goes down, he goes down.
You only have a little bit, so that'd be great.
Wow, this is amazing. So far, so good, buddy. Yeah. Amazing.
You gotta get
Sorry.
Okay.
Wow.
Pretty phenomenal, huh?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
This is...
He's like, no, I don't do that now.
Here, I can help him get up there. Or do you got it? You got it? Just be careful of the counter. All right.
That was
That was amazing. That was pretty stinking awesome. Good job, Drift. Drift.
So that's a pretty big miracle to me. And who knows whether it was because he was hurt, because his body got worked out again, or whether he got to give ministry to his person that day right there in the room and take care of his guy. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just grateful that he's up and moving. So the people got him home that night, and he has since, he's going to the bathroom on his own, which seems like a miracle, and he's even kind of cruising around in the yard. So I thought I'd leave you with this image.